Welcome to the Astrology Hub podcast. I'm Amanda Poole-Walsh, founder of Astrology Hub and your host for our flagship show. We explore the many ways astrology can support you in your relationships, career, health, and personal growth. Thanks for tuning in. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. And I am thrilled to be here today with Galactic Astrology researcher, Julia Wallis. And I just have to say that Julia has taken our community by storm. So I was in our Mighty Networks Inner Circle community, just connecting with our different members. And I found a thread that was all about a recent podcast that Julia had done with Pam Gregory. And the comments that people were leaving under this podcast, saying things like, wow, this podcast has changed my life, or, oh my gosh, like this has given me keys to questions that I've been asking my entire life. Things like that were being said under this video. And I went, I probably need to check this out. So, and I love Pam Gregory so much. So I went and listened to the episode between Pam and Julia, and I was blown away. Within minutes, it was like, oh, okay, this is something special. What Julia is doing is something special. There is some frequency coming through her and her work that I would love to share with our community here at Astrology Hub. So we reached out to Julia, and actually Linda Bird also then later connected, said, hey, Amanda, I really think you need to meet Julia Wallis. And I went, oh my gosh, Linda, we are definitely on the same frequency because I already have been wanting to reach out to Julia. So then we did. And now she's here. And I'm so grateful you're here, Julia. Thank you for joining us and sharing your work and your perspective with our community.
Thank you so much for this wonderful introduction, Amanda. I'm so happy to be here, so grateful. It's always extra exciting to share the work with fellow enthusiasts of astrology. So I can't wait to see how the information will come through and how the information will impact the audience as well. It's always amazing to see the stories of resonance and awakenings and greater clarity. So I'm super grateful. Thank you.
So this is your Astrology Hub podcast debut, and we always start with story so that we can get to know you, so that we can get to understand a little bit about the journey that you've been on that brought you to this moment. So can you tell us a little bit about how you came to astrology, and then also how you came to this galactic astrology?
So I am self-taught astrologer, and it's something that was a complex of mine, and I was kind of holding back because of it. I, didn't ever think that I will be speaking in front of so many people and encouraged by so many people as a self-taught astrologer. But as I'm listening to your podcasts and other podcasts, it seems there are many self-taught astrologers. So I'm actually so glad that I did break free. And it was actually thanks to Pam Gregory's books. There was something about her frequency, her encouraging, uplifting words. She's such a high vibe that while reading one of her books, I said, I'm just going to do it. I need to come out. And I'm so glad I did. Never looked back. But so it was early teens when I had access to a huge library and always went into the section for psychology and esoterics, and astrology books were there too. I was always very self-reflective and very curious about how the mind works and why we are the way we are. So, but the biggest development occurred when I became a QHHT practitioner.
Oh, okay. Say that word again.
QHHT practitioner.
Okay.
So the biggest breakthrough occurred when I became a QHHT practitioner, full-time, holding space for people who wanted to find answers to their kind of soul-driven questions, why their life is the way it is, why they're struggling with certain challenges, no matter what they're doing. And they always thought, is it something from a past life, or is it maybe ancestral story that is influencing me as a strong blueprint, strong pattern that I need a higher perspective on? So it was during these QHHT sessions from the very beginning, because I was an astrology nerd, I asked clients for their birth details. So I kind of learned the other way around to really understand the charts, because I would listen to their entire life stories first in the kind of pre-session interview, and then hold space for them for 3 hours or longer sometimes as they regress to multiple lifetimes, whether their own or ancestral stories. And then after their session, I was taking time for hours just looking at the chart and looking for what they experienced and what they shared with me. I was looking for the validations of that in their astrology. And it always blew my mind. It's all there. It was like I was becoming more and more passionate and driven to just learn this code of creator. It's like looking behind a curtain and seeing what the divine plan is. And it's so brilliant. It's intelligence that we cannot even fathom. It's so epic. There are many mind-blowing moments, and I started saying that I live for these mind-blowing moments, and it's so thrilling. And I love sharing these now with others and actually connecting with audience and enthusiasts who also thrive on these kinds of experiences. The biggest first breakthrough was looking at lunar nodes, south node, because I had the opportunity to witness people going through several past lives. Some clients would just go through one life experience that was different than their current. And it was like full-on story with a lot of details, and that was the whole session. But many were jumping from several different life stories, and there was a thread, there was a pattern of consciousness. For some of them, it was more about clearly just relationships development throughout many lifetimes. For others, it was about developing or searching for truth, spirituality. There are so many different stories. And when I looked at the lunar nodes, it was there. Like, lunar nodes are a real thing. When you look at your south node and what that means, and if you look at descriptions of it in any of the literature available out there, like a great book for that would be Astrology for the Soul by Jan Spiller, an amazing book, so much guidance for every day when you just look at the lunar nodes. But when you look at what she's saying about potential past lives, these were the past lives that my clients were experiencing in their sessions.
Wow.
Just a quick example, if there was South Node in Aries, then the theme of those past lives would have been either a soldier or a solar traveler, like a cowboy in the prairie, someone who was relying on their own decisions to survive, and it was more about me, myself, and I, and then the others. And then they were shown that in this lifetime, actually, they've done it so much now. This lifetime, their soul wants them to actually start connecting with others and be more diplomatic and compassionate and caring about the relationships. So kind of developing the Libra North Node. So it's just one of many examples. It really is there. So do guys look at your lunar nodes and find the guidance there, and ideally find your healthy middle, right? Because I believe we are coming to the point where we are integrating the polarity of archetypal energies. It's really calling us to the center. That was first couple of years. And then I started noticing clients more and more experiencing stories that did not look like Earth experience. They were describing atmospheric conditions that were definitely not Earth. When they looked at the sky, they would have seen several larger objects, whether moons or other planets. Different color skies, their bodies look different. There are so many different stories. I could go on and on about this one, but it was clear that it was different star system, different planet. But I want to get to the point where some of them started connecting to more well-known star systems like Sirius or Arcturus, Orion. And when I got those names, and it was around that time that I realized we can track fixed stars by zodiac degrees. And I love, just for a quick reference, going to astrologyking.com website /fixed stars. It lists them beautifully by zodiac sign. So that's what I started paying attention to. So astrologyking.com lists them by the conjunct alignments. But I started looking also at the opposites, trines, sextiles, and squares. And it was taking me usually around 3 hours to do all the calculations manually, because there wasn't a software at the time, at least that I was aware of. I was not using SolarFi or anything like that. It was just all self-made. But so I started looking at charts and fixed stars. At first, I wasn't sure what I'm looking at, but it's just like looking for patterns. And usually I would look for something that repeats as a story, where I can get some certainty. Okay, there is really something to it. It's not just my mind trying to give a meaning to something, And synchronicity, as it happens, is that if I was focusing on certain star system, let's say Pleiades, usually there would be certain planets in our system transiting Pleiades, and clients who would book those sessions in that time would have Pleiades in their charts as well, aligned to some of their planets. That was one of the big one as well. There was a person who was channeling Syrian higher aspect of their being, and their natal Mercury was conjuncting Sirius, and on that day there was another I think sun or moon conjuncting Sirius.
Oh my God.
That was the point where I just could not stop, and it was like, oh my God, there is something amazing here and I want to know more. So that's kind of how it started.
What an incredible story. What I love about this, and this is exactly what I got when I started listening to you with Pam, is this is very quote unquote out there. I mean, no pun intended, ideas and information. So basically what you're saying is that you were starting to see patterns, not only for lifetimes on this planet, but also you're starting to see patterns of lifetimes on other fixed stars and in other galaxies even. But what I love about you is you're doing it so scientifically, and in your meticulous tracking and research. Can you tell us a little bit about how you're doing that? Like, how are you actually putting all this data together in a way that it's something that you can study?
Yeah. Well, I have folders of just A4 paper. I would put the birth details on top with all the planets alignments as they are on natal chart, and then fixed stars. So I have a huge pile of just sheets with natal details, including fixed stars. And then the back page or additional pages usually stapled in would have the story that occurred in the session or the life key points. And then I have a recording of their session as well. But the biggest synchronicities or patterns that really seem to matter and come up over and over, they are shared now in my online courses. A basic course and then more advanced course was created from the basic course, from the students' demand and questions and feedback. It's just growing on its own.
Okay, so give us a little taste. Are you noticing that there are sort of flavors or like different characteristics or different missions and values based on where someone's coming from in based on which fixed star that they're having history with?
I understand your question. Yes, I would actually like to encourage people to go to our free calculator tool. One of the students who happened to be software developer helped us build this to spare us hours of calculating. If you go to galacticastrology.com and go to free chart, you put your birth details and it'll calculate only 47 most common fixed stars, which I found most relevant. We're adding more now as it's expanding, but you can see if any of these are connected to your chart. And so what I'm noticing is that most of us, at least maybe my attraction point seems to be seeing or connecting with people who I call multi-galactic star seeds. And I really see the story of this kind of hybrid race where there are so many different types of DNA within our human DNA, and different DNA, I mean, I believe wholeheartedly different humanoid beings or human beings from different star systems. I really believe space is packed with life based on endless stories that I've witnessed during the sessions and also the research that I've done. But what I'm seeing is that, for example, if you have alignments to the 4 royal stars or Galactic Center, Super Galactic Center, the Great Attractor, these people have, um, they're naturally wired to perceive multidimensionally, or they're more in tune with this expanded awareness and always feeling like there is more out there, like it's not just the earth. They are very intelligent, very in tune, very you just, they have this higher frequency of consciousness. And it's the fixed stars, I believe, that I see in the chart. Whoever has more conjunct and oppositions to these prominent fixed stars, they're wired that way, compares to people who don't necessarily have as many. They seem more occupied with the life here and now, going to work, paying bills, watching the Netflix shows. But their time will come too, because you still have sextiles, trines, squares. Like every chart is quite busy, and there are complex stories there. And I believe we are awakening to remember stories of our deep ancestors, not just here on Earth, but elsewhere as well. And it's all in the chart.
Why do you think we forget this? I mean, why do you think it's designed so that we don't actually know?
Yeah, I believe in cycles of nature and cycles of consciousness. And I believe Earth really is going through her own cycles as well. And this solar system is going through its own cycles, and this part of the galaxy too. But I really do feel like there has been the 26,000 years of the night cycle, and now we are stepping really to the dawn and to the light, where there is greater connectivity, greater harmony, and remembrance.
Julia, I have maybe the most amount of chills that I've ever had, like as you've been speaking. It's incredible. I mean, what you literally pulled out the Aries South Node, which is my South Node.
Oh.
And I have had past life regressions, remembering myself as a leader in war.
Awesome.
And I've had that moment. I've had that death moment in the regression, remembering being in a field, seeing everybody was dead on the field. And I was about to take my life because I was a leader, and I'm not allowed to live at that point. And my final thought was, I led them the wrong way. And then I take my own life. And then I am out of my body. And it's the same thing you just said. I had so much compassion. It was just like, oh my gosh, we're so confused when we're down there in this human realm. Like we have no clue. Like, and all of a sudden it was just so clear that it was okay. And there was so much forgiveness and so much compassion. I've had the same type of memory, seeing myself as a leader in a spiritual community and feeling that, what I have so many, I mean, there's like 3 distinct regressions that I've had that are definitely all in this Aries kind of flavor of leadership, betrayal, leadership gone wrong, and all of those experiences in this lifetime have brought first a huge resistance to ever being a leader, like never wanting to be a leader because I didn't want to lead people the wrong way. And then a true understanding of, okay, if I'm going to be a leader, here's how I need to do it. Here's what I can stand for. That's eternal. And here's what I can't, but so these lessons of going through that process of remembrance are so healing in this moment. But what you're bringing in is a whole nother level, because now we get to find our galactic roots and potentially some of the lessons that we've learned in other lifetimes, even beyond this planet, which who knows what that will open up in us. Right. And I'm sure you've gotten to experience what it opens up in people. What do you see? Like what actually starts to become unlocked for people when they're making these connections?
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. What an incredible validation. And yet another incredible story of soul evolving over many incarnations towards its greatness or remembering of its divinity that is perfect. Yes, the galactic lives also hold the frequency of the archetypal behavioral experiences that we have here. And generically speaking, what I'm seeing, there are certain themes connected to certain star systems. For example, if someone has a lot of Pleiadian alignments, they will be quite fast paced. They will be multitaskers. They'll be very kind of joyful, bubbly, and want to focus on the positive things in everyone, give many chances, and they'll be really actively working on helping to make this world a better place. Uh, and of course, if it's trauma conditioned, then it's that, polluted in a certain way, and you need to come out to be that expression fully. And someone in contrast to that who has a lot of Syrian alignments, they are much more down to earth. They will speak slower. They will take their time to deliver certain concepts. They're very wise, grounded. You can totally tell that frequency. Or someone who has Orion Nebula alignments, and especially conjunct and oppositions, they feel very angelic and very gentle and deeply compassionate, and they'll feel the suffering of others deeply. Arcturians would also feel like that, but they feel more grounded and able to handle the earth environment and polarity, and great healers. So you can see these themes with different fixed stars, and it's not something I've studied. It was all through witnessing the stories from the sessions and just feeling the flavor and frequency of different people.
I wonder too. I mean, are you seeing that people are sort of naturally drawn to the stars that they come from? For example, I meet a lot of people. I live in Hawaii, and the Hawaiians have a very deep, rich history and past with the Pleiades. So they had a huge festival every single year based on the rising of the Pleiades. And the festival would last as long as the Pleiades were in the sky. So it was about 4 months. And this happened every year. It's called Makahiki. But so there's a lot of connection to Pleiades here. Do you find that people are naturally drawn to the ones that then get validated when you look at the chart?
100%. The heart and soul knows. And that's one big message that I like to keep sharing, because some people are not analytical, logical, and they find it hard to research and study a huge amount of data. They're more intuitive, creative, and just in tune with their intuition. And I want to tell them, you don't have to know anything about astrology or even go down that path to get these validations. Your heart and soul knows. I've seen it so many times that people are guided to reach their highest potential, that you can see astrologically in their chart just by following their excitement, what feels right.
That's amazing. I mean, so basically you're doing the validation for us to be able to say, hey, 100%, if you're feeling this pull and this draw, and you always have, or maybe even recently it's come in. I love what you said about us being multi-galactic, that many of us have a mix of past history with different fixed stars, correct?
Yes, there's an awesome book that I highly recommend by Lisa Royal Holt called The Prism of Lyra, where she is doing such a wonderful job at explaining how the human race started from Lyra and then spread across many different star systems, including Pleiades, including Vega, including Sirius, Earth, some of the Orion stars as well. And seeing that, actually reading that book at some point after year or two of looking at fixed stars, I started that helped me actually connect the dots, because I saw these different star systems spread across a chart. You can actually, that's how I started noticing that the outer planets, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, are showing the deepest soul history, the most ancient soul history, really the deep ancestors of like soul DNA, let's say, coming from Lyra. And then how that soul journeyed to then colonize Vega, then they stepped in Sirius, then to Earth. Some of them were literally like that, as obvious as that, and it's all in the chart.
Can you say the name of that book again?
The Prism of Lyra.
And Lyra spelled Lyra?
Yes.
Okay. The Prism of Lyra.
Yeah, by Lisa Royal Holt. And then she also has a tarot cards deck called Our Galactic Heritage, and she focused on most well-known stars. What I loved about her channeling is that she shows the archetypal behavior of those human races in those certain star systems from their past consciousness, their greatest struggles in terms of polarity of their being and experiences, then their kind of present moment where they started realizing the insanity of that, and then how they transcended that, and their future, their highest light expression, and how much of that is actually we are experiencing all that as an echo of it. What I believe now, after seeing so many incredible soul journeys, is that Earth is really a special place where these multi-galactic seeds of DNA are merging here, and that we are going through this extraordinary time where our consciousness is rapidly evolving, expanding. We are meant to remember some of those ancient stories of our struggles, whether on Earth or elsewhere. Whatever we live on Earth, I feel is like an echo of unresolved stories of polarity in other star systems. We are meant to kind of feel them, relive them emotionally, and then also bring that higher awareness, higher consciousness, which is very much becoming more and more available to us, guiding us to resolve, heal the pain, and let go of those blueprints of trauma and return to unity, harmony, peace, love, safety, most of all, reclaiming our right to feel safe in this universe, and then starting to kind of creating this upgraded higher octave of human experience in cosmos, something like
that. Are they more evolved than us?
There is infinite amount of answers you can have here, because it depends what level of consciousness you are in, what you need to zoom in, what is relevant to your own evolutionary journey. You will have different view of different stories based on what you need. So if we reach that highest level of consciousness, we surpass the linear time space. When you reach high level of consciousness, when you step into love and peace and really kind of bringing your higher self into your body, you start perceiving quantumly, where you can tap into past life, future life, it's all parallel, it's all in the now. And it's not the physical human brain that can perceive it. It will not happen in a beta brainwave state. You have to go into either theta or gamma through breath work or meditation. When you tap into that timelessness, then everything is happening in the now, and you can tap into more evolved aspects of yourself from other beings, but you can also tap into the less evolved.
Is polarity sort of the common thread of what we're all trying to integrate and work with?
Yeah, absolutely. And that need of being a god or creator or someone who controls of how everything is, and the fighting of, everyone is not happy yet. I'm so mad at that. Like, why aren't they? We need to let go of wanting to control everything and everyone, and just surrender to what is, and allowing this planet to be full of infinite possibilities, and that gem where anything is possible.
Do you find that people, when they finally get to a point where they're tapping into this understanding or perspective, are they at a certain point of consciousness as well, like where they're ready to receive this additional information? Or are we sort of always aware of it, but maybe we start to become aware of the higher potential of it?
I think you answered it yourself there.
Okay.
Yes. What I'm seeing is that people who kind of naturally get what I'm saying here, if you look at their charts as well, you can tell even in their chart that this is a high frequency being or soul. They will have, let's say, Neptune conjuncting their galactic center, or there'll be Antares conjunctions. Antares is really interesting royal star, because I see it a lot with healing practitioners. And a lot QHHT practitioners would have Antarian fixed star alignments. It's something about it that helps these people become like activators of higher consciousness. It's easier for others to tap into higher dimensions because you hold that Antarian frequency. For example, I have Uranus and Jupiter conjuncting Antares in my 7th house. So it's becoming really activated through relationships. And that's how I noticed it with my own sessions. And so the community of the galactic astrology researchers that are drawn to us when we share the charts, many of them have these similar alignments. So it's like this likeness of wavelength. We have these same fixed stars in our charts.
So what do you say to people that have a hard time believing the idea of past lives in general? like on this planet, let alone know you come from, who knows how long of a past of lives on other fixed stars or in other galaxies.
Brilliant question. Thank you so much. There are a few other perspectives that these people might resonate with. One of them is there is a soul memory, or there is a DNA memories. The DNA is imprinted with information, like it's scientifically proven that your DNA can store infinite amount of data. So if you don't want to accept those stories as your soul's history and your soul's past lives, you can accept or work with them as your ancestral stories, your ancestral lives that you're tapping into through your DNA. And another perspective is that we are all part of this great ocean. You're just a drop. And whenever you shift into theta or gamma brainwave frequency, which is a natural state for us, you are tapping into different drops of the ocean. And even your experience is just like the ocean is experiencing itself through you, and everything belongs to the ocean. We are all part of one big intelligence. So you can see as that, or the ancestral, or actually your own stories, or metaphoric stories as well. Some client sessions were shown experiences where their higher self said, actually, this was just a metaphoric story for to help this person to get a different perspective on what they are experiencing, and that's how they healed or understood something. So,
oh my gosh. Well, and it could be sort of all of the above, right? I mean, yeah. Julia, where does myth play into this? Are some of the stories and mythology that we seem to connect with as humans, sort of across the board, across culture, across time, are those potentially actually stories from different lifetimes or other experiences? Or how do you see myth play into this and some of the mythology that we have around the planets and the different zodiac signs, for example?
Yeah. What I believe occurred with these stories when they were created, at the point of their creation, whoever channeled that story first, whether as a narrative of telling something that they've lived or something that they imagined as a metaphoric story to what they lived, I believe that those individuals, if we looked at their fixed stars, I bet they would have Galactic Centre conjunctions or some of these higher frequency consciousness stars like Antares or maybe Fulmahod, Arcturus, perhaps Sirius. They have so much wisdom channeling through when people have these in their charts. I believe these would be these extraordinary human beings that are just wired to perceive cosmic consciousness, to see the archetypal patterns. Some people are just wired that way, and they would then channel this type of story that is a reflection of something that is actually a pattern of behavior. That's one perspective I have. And the other one is, especially in relation to gods and their extra abilities that are non-human, I believe those were extraterrestrial beings that did come from different star systems. So it's actually interesting. Recently, I really can't remember where I saw this interview. There was a theologist who shifted a perspective on Bible and the Old Testament and New Testament. And he said, what if those angels and chariots of fire were actually extraterrestrial beings? And just so many dots connected. And he's now giving lectures on how to interpret the Old and New Testament when you actually see that all that channeling of angels as extraterrestrial beings. And it all makes so much sense.
Oh my God. Who is this doing this?
I'll do my best to find it and do a link. I'll find it.
Do you see that the chart here, like our birth chart, is, I know that it's related via conjunction and different aspects to fixed stars, but is the pattern, is the blueprint or pattern of our astrology chart similar to the blueprint or pattern of the energy of that fixed star that we're most connected with, if we can even do that, most connected with? I don't know if you can always say it that way.
Yes, I believe so. And it just shifts slightly, and it rearranges itself to, because you have so many different ways of how you can connect to certain star system. It doesn't necessarily have to only be through sun or moon for your soul fractal from that star system to kind of come through into this incarnation. It can come through any of the planets. And I'm also finding stories related to MC, Part of Fortune, Vertex, Lilith. They all say something about, how you are helping to resolve something from certain star systems that are linked through these points. Like, there are greater and greater stories.
Oh my gosh. Oh God. I literally could. Thank you for your patience. As I feel like I'm firing questions at you, but I have so many more. I feel like you were about to just say something.
At one point, I read a book. It was about Buddhic astrologers, Buddhism astrologers. Again, I'll do my best to find that book again. But that whole book was looking at charts of the Buddhas and their reincarnation, and how their chart was actually evolving, but the patterns were there, just shifting. And I believe I'm seeing that through the past lives stories. Obviously, I was never able to ask about their astrological chart from before, but just it cannot not be that way. If you think about how we embody the consciousness of the planets based on their mathematical arrangement.
Yes, yes. How do you see sort of like the idea of soul clusters, or like the people that we're in relationship with here? Do you see patterns between families or with spouses and with children? Are you seeing that happen as well?
It's actually a great question. Yes, and those are some of the most beautiful stories of validation or consciousness expansion and heart expansion, when people see that their spouse have similar fixed stars from those older outer planets, and you just know that we knew that we knew each other for so long, like we know each other for aeons, and then you see fixed stars or the same fixed stars in the chart. And so we looking at family charts, when you have this odd one out person, you will see that there is parents and one child. They all have similar fixed stars alignments. There, it's same frequency, and then there is the odd one out who has not none of those, or very little, more like squares to them, and different fixed stars, different flavor altogether. So I got to the point now when I look at the charts, I don't look at the traditional astrology stuff. I just look at the fixed stars, and it gives me so much information. That's how I view the charts now.
Amazing. Okay, you just mentioned something. So my love and I both have 29 degrees Leo in Saturn. But are you saying Saturn at 29 degrees Leo? Are you saying that it's only the outer planets that you're looking at? Only conjunctions with outer planets?
No, the outer planets would indicate some of the most ancient soul connections, and these people who have conjunctions and oppositions to the outer planets, when we look at their soul history, it seems to be like these are the very, very old souls, especially if there is Lyra, but other star systems too. You can just tell, even when you meet them, that this is a very old, wise soul. And if a child would have those, you'll see from an early age that this is a very old, wise soul with a lot of experiences. People who don't seem to have them and would have conjuncts and opposition to fixed stars, more to the inner planets, they feel somewhat younger. It's still hundreds of lifetimes. Ancient souls, I mean thousands of lifetimes. Like, we really are very old and very complex beings, especially if you then have regular royal star connections. Like, this would be a leadership soul archetype, that you would have been a leader not just on earth but in other places too, most likely, once you start tapping into it. So now saying that this, I don't want someone who will look at their chart and they will not have as many conjunct and oppositions, and they'll feel bad that they're not special. I really don't want to create this type of experience. What I'm seeing is that these younger souls have equal value and importance, and their role and their mission on Earth they're just as important. Oftentimes, they come from a non-physical experience where they will be fifth density or dimension, however you want to perceive it, and higher non-physical experiences for aeons. So they would for aeons feel one with all. They would feel more like an angelic soul or a collective soul consciousness. And they are only now getting accustomed to being in lower density and physicality. So they have very high frequency. So that's your specialness. And but it's hard to be on Earth for them. And you can see that. And, you've been in a non-physical for most of your soul experience, and now you're learning about polarity and anchoring frequencies on Earth. So,
whoa, I'm really, really glad that you brought that in. And I've met people who feel like that, but then there's people that I've met that there is an otherworldly energy to them, and it's like they're getting used to how to human and how to physical and how to all that. And they seem extraordinarily tuned in, like in a level that I've never had access to. So I'm really happy that you said that. I mean, I can see how that would be, a pitfall that many of us could fall into. Like, oh, I wanted to have this conjunction, or I thought I can see how it could become like that, but it doesn't need to. Yeah.
There are a few exceptions I want to mention where they really are exception to the rule. I'm noticing that souls who have Galactic Centre, or mostly Galactic Centre, but also Super Galactic Centre, conjuncting or opposing their sun, moon, ascendant, or lunar nodes, or even midheaven, they sometimes they seem to be more advanced. They come from higher dimensions for sure. And when we look at their soul records, they look like they're jumping from past to future, back and forward. It's like forget the linear timeline of soul journey. It's as if they come almost like fractal of source consciousness, and they tune into whatever timeline was relevant for them to kind of understand our present human experience. And they have this great sense of helping humanity to reach higher levels of consciousness. But there always seem to be exceptions to the rule with these peak stars, where sometimes it's just very quantum. And this is why we developed the soul reading part of Galactic Astrology, where there's a whole portion of developing our psychic ability or tuning into soul records and checking intuitively whether it's A or B or C. And we learn, you ask yes, no questions, and your body either gives you a yes by expanding or no by contracting. So when people start looking at their charts, I encourage them to, realize that it's 50% of analytical study, research, but also 50% has to be intuition and you tuning into the soul records, or always ask what is the most relevant here for me to learn to grow, rather than just looking for entertainment stories, because you'll get stuck forever.
Yes, yes. Okay. What is the degree of the Galactic Center again? And are you saying conjunct, opposition?
Conjunct and opposition mainly. So Galactic Center currently is around 27 degrees of Sagittarius. So that would be for conjunct, and 27 degrees of Gemini would be for opposition. And to any of the planets, but mainly sun, moon, ascendant. If there are conjunctions like that, then that soul will be naturally wired to some kind of source, higher consciousness, unified consciousness, kind of divine mother, father, understanding and embodiment. So then look at which house your Galactic Center, that degree, 27 degree of Sagittarius is. Sometimes even when there are no planets connected to that degree, I've noticed that if you look at where that degree and sign is, which house in your chart, there seem to be unconscious pull towards you focusing in that area, and that's where you can reach that higher consciousness easiest. Unconsciously it's calling you. And same would apply for Super Galactic Center, which is at 2 degrees of Libra in around currently. And then the great attractor is 14 degrees of Sagittarius. So we're kind of just exploring these collectively, and it seems there is really something to it.
And is it where it was when you were born,
Yes.
or where it is now?
Where it was when you were born. Where is it in your natal chart?
Yeah. Okay. And which house system do you use for this?
I throughout the QHHD sessions research, I used Placidus because I was looking at it from a psychological perspective. I was looking at the intercepted houses, and they always were spot on, reflecting what they were struggling with in childhood, whatever was suppressed and whatever was overdeveloped. They really are brilliant for that. And for the last year, I started also looking at whole house system and just kind of feeling into both. Yeah. And relocation charts, I have to say, we also look at them because if sometimes the houses completely shift and fixed stars alignments will fall into different house, whereas when you were born. So encourage everyone to explore whatever system they use and just add fixed stars to it and see what stories are opening up from within your being. And yeah.
How do you best recommend that people begin to tune into the different potential fixed stars?
Transits, they really are powerful. So look at the transit. So what anyone can do, go to galacticastrology.com, go to that free chart, and then on the first tab there, if you open the first tab, there is a third option called Astro Degrees. You click on the Astro Degrees and then you select a year of interest. So let's say 2022, and then the system will recalculate all of the fixed stars that we offer in conjunct, opposition, trine, sextiles, and square. So you can look at the degree where and which star you're interested in. So, and then look at where the planets are today, look at your daily horoscope. So yeah, during the transits, it seems that it's the easiest time for that soul aspect or the soul family from that star system to communicate and activate memories. It was the first breakthrough through the QHHD sessions when I realized actually people are able to tap into their past lives easiest when they have transiting planets on the day of their session.
Oh my gosh, it brings a whole nother dimension to the point of transits. I mean, basically these portals are opening up where we're able to connect with these different what do you call them? I mean, I know they're fixed stars, but are they
star system? I say star systems.
Star systems. Okay.
Oftentimes in QHHD sessions, when someone connected to their more like a non-physical existence in different star systems, so they would describe that they feel themselves like a sphere of light, and they don't have legs or hands or anything. They're just a bubble of light. And they were aware of other spheres of light, and there was a planet. They were aware of a whole society, and everyone was telepathic, and there was immense joy and connection and transparency. We were individual but collective at the same time. So let's say this would be Arcturian soul experience. And they would say that they would start crying because they realized that soul group family is always connected to them. They're always watching over you. You're never left alone here. Those are the biggest realizations that with your beta brainwave frequencies, it seems like you're just here, disconnected, but it's far from truth. All you need to do is just take 3 deep breaths, switch into alpha brainwave or theta or gamma, and suddenly feel connected through your heart space. So during the transits, it may be easier. We should be able to tap and connect and download information at any point. We are that powerful. Our consciousness is able for it. If you train yourself into, and if you trust your heart, your intention is very powerful. It's like a calling line. But for those who are not yet trained, they can avail of transits, make it easier for them. There is a really awesome app, Star Walk 2. Some of you may be familiar. I highly recommend it because it will, you point it at the sky above you, whether you're indoor or outdoor, and it'll tell you exactly how the sun is passing, where the planets are, and what star system are behind it. Because some of the websites, like including our website, it'll say, for example, our sun will be conjuncting Arcturus in, I think, 10 or 12 days from now. But it's not 24 hours on that particular day. If you use that app, you will see that perhaps where you live, the sun will have Arcturus behind it at 9 o'clock in the morning. If you live somewhere else on Earth, it could be 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So where is the best time for you to then meditate with the intention to bring highest light love?
And the sun, does the sun sort of help carry the frequency?
Or moon or any other planets, but sun seems to be the easiest for us to actually allow that and receive that and feel that.
Oh my God, this is fascinating. Like, whoa. It's so reassuring too. It's like, I think what you just said about our consciousness and how it's designed as like this call-in line, like if we enable enough time in these other brain waves, then we can actually access really important and reassuring information and presence from these other beings. And this is one of the realizations I've been having recently, Julia, and we talked about this a little bit backstage before we came online, that I'm being encouraged to reduce my filling of space with technology, meaning podcasts or phone calls or meetings or all these different things I do throughout the day. I mean, my whole entire business and life and world is basically virtual. So, but I'm being asked, because of different physical things that are happening in my body, to reduce that. And as I'm doing that, I am more aware of more planetary and universal frequencies. And I've heard really specifically, because when you're always filling the space, you can't hear us. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. That's right. So this is so reassuring. Okay. Another question for you before we wrap up. I mean, literally, Julia, I think I could talk to you forever. And I'm sure our audience has lots of questions too. If you do have questions that I haven't asked today, please put them in the chat. And I would love if Julie and I can stay in touch and continue exploring some of these topics. But what is the most consistent message that you feel or that you've heard that comes through the different, what'd you call them? Star clusters? Star systems. Star systems.
Raising your frequency and not giving into doom and gloom timelines that are being projected by certain consciousness, by certain perspectives. Choose your timeline, choose your frequency, because you raising your frequency is so powerful that it will help you navigate no matter what doom and gloom would occur. You will fly through it with ease and grace. So just keep raising your frequency. They keep saying that. Just focus on what you can do to bring more balance, harmony, joy, love, peace into your reality. How can you make this world a better place? It's coming over and over. And for those who didn't hear me saying this before in other interviews, in terms of past life regressions, often they regress into future timelines. Some clients came with a strong need to know, are we doomed or what's going to happen? So they were shown their future incarnation 100, 200, 300 years from now. And it was a peaceful world. There was a world peace treaty signed. There were signs of it. And this came through so many sessions, not just in my sessions, but other QHHT practitioners as well, where humanity is restoring balance and harmony of their experience, smaller communities in harmony with nature, highly advanced technology, but technology that is supporting our well-being and well-being of nature. Literally seeing speakers that would play frequencies that is enhancing our well-being and all kinds of other details. But it's going to be okay.
Oh God, definitely the world record for chills in my body through this interview. Yeah, Julia. So for people that want to start, you've given several different avenues and paths. I know that you've developed a lot at your school. I think probably the first place was it your site to get the alignments for each person?
So everything is now linked through galacticastrology.com. You can either start with just looking at your free chart and see what fixed stars alignments there are. And, start there. And here I want to highlight that people usually get very excited. They're like, oh my God, there's so much there. I want to know it all and I want to know it now. There's this eagerness that starts kind of disturbing the peace a little bit. I invite you to be okay not knowing it all at once, and instead embrace the journey that this is going to take you on, because it will be months, if not years, and it'll be amazing. It'll be mind-blowing, entertaining, healing. It will be shedding stuff. You will be expanding. Things will start shifting and changing. New people will come in. It's an awesome journey, but it's a journey. It's not like, I want to know it all now. Don't.
That is so true about the astrological journey too. It's and then people get discouraged because they can't learn it all in a 30-day, course or something. It's like, but it's about enjoying the journey, and it's about enjoying the process of discovery. And there's so much delight in that at every single step along the way. So it's like, settle in and enjoy the ride. Yeah. Okay. So what else?
If there are people who are not wired into research or don't have time to research this and take their time this way, we now have growing community of dedicated galactic astrologers who are super passionate and just 24/7 studying this and tuning in for people. They usually spend a day, sometimes even a week, with more complex chart preparing. So they tune in for you and then give you whatever is most relevant for you to hear at this time to help you evolve and mainly get a bigger picture. It's like connecting many different puzzle pieces. So you can book a session with them. They have different price ranges. They offer written reports, audio, or Zoom recordings live. So you can kind of tune into them. And I created a podcast where we interview each of them, so you can really feel their frequency, their flavor, their background. They each bring their own unique gifts into it. So that will take some time for people to research, but let your heart guide you to the right one. And if you are really excited about this, if you're enthusiastic about astrology, you can start with Galactic Astrology 101 course, which is also on the Galactic Astrology website. Try that first. Plenty of information there. And if you really feel the expansion of energy in your life, activation, go for the practitioner course and join the community and grow with us. It's really amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know if you've heard that we are starting a reading service at Astrology Hub too, Astrologer Connect. Yeah. So we're going to help people connect with astrologers easily and book readings, either booked or by the minute. But I'm listening to this going, it'd be amazing to have some of your practitioners working at Astrologer Connect as well. And then some of our students, I'm sure, will become practitioners as well. And so there, I can see a beautiful synergy between what you're doing and what we're doing at Astrology Hub. And I'm just so grateful for everything that you're doing, Julia, to really expand our awareness of the universe and our place in it and our interconnectivity with so much more than we realize. It's like we're just scratching the surface, it feels, and there's so much more to discover. I'm so grateful that you're out on the forefront, leading the charge in a lot of ways. So thank you for that, Julia.
Thank you. Likewise, right back at you.
So much fun. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. If you loved this episode, if you're new to Astrology Hub, make sure you sign up for our free weekly newsletter. It is called the Cosmic Insider. That's where you're going to get a summary of all the amazing podcast episodes that we did throughout the week, as well as some insights into the current astrological weather, reflections on some of the themes that are really important to pay attention to as you're navigating your life here in this lifetime. So check that out at astrologyhub.com/insider. And we'd love to have you as a part of our community. Thank you to all of the Inner Circle members who introduced me to Julia. I'm super grateful for all of you and all of your enthusiasm. It's so fun when you all are saying, hey, pay attention to this person. We found some of our greatest astrologers through that, where the community is saying, hey, this person's amazing. Please bring them on the podcast. So thank you to all of you in the Inner Circle that were singing Julia's praises. And thank you, Julia, so much for being here, for sharing your wisdom, your perspective, your joy with all of us. I know that we all can feel it, and it's so awesome to know that you're out there doing this work. Thank you for that.